The world had just emerged from a great and terrible conflict. The guns of the Second World War had fallen silent, but a new kind of struggle was beginning. The Cold War, a contest of ideas, influence and fear, divided the world. Two superpowers, the United States and the Soviet Union, stood on opposite sides. For ordinary people, survival meant navigating shifting loyalties and hidden dangers. The survival of cultures, freedoms, and the planet itself seemed to hang in the balance. This is the story of their courage, ingenuity, and unyielding will to survive. After World War II, the alliance that defeated a common enemy fractured. The United States and the Soviet Union became rivals, separated by a deep ideological chasm. The Soviet Union, led by Stalin, sought to create a buffer of communist states in Eastern Europe. The West feared the spread of communism. Winston Churchill called this division the Iron Curtain. To the east lay the Soviet bloc: Poland, East Germany, Czechoslovakia, Hungary, Romania, Bulgaria, under Moscow's control. To the west, nations rebuilt with American help, embracing democracy and market economies. The continent was now starkly divided into two opposing camps. In the west, there was freedom and opportunity, but the Soviet threat loomed. In the east, the state controlled everything. Secret police monitored citizens, and travel was restricted. Families and friends were separated, ancient ties severed. The Iron Curtain created two worlds, each taught to fear and mistrust the other. For those in the east, survival meant navigating a system where a wrong word could mean imprisonment. In the west, it meant living with the anxiety of a potential Soviet invasion. The world was holding its breath, waiting to see what would happen next. The division was not just political, it was deeply personal. The United States responded to Soviet expansion with the Truman Doctrine, supporting free peoples resisting subjugation. Greece and Turkey were the first to receive aid, marking a shift from isolationism to active containment of communism. The Marshall Plan followed, offering billions to rebuild Western Europe's shattered economies. This was both generosity and strategy, stabilizing allies, fostering goodwill, and creating strong trading partners. The Marshall Plan fueled a remarkable recovery in the West, contrasting sharply with the struggling East. The Truman Doctrine established the principle of containment, guiding U.S. policy for decades. The Soviet Union saw these moves as hostile, forbidding Eastern Bloc nations from accepting aid and tightening its grip. They created their own economic alliance, Comecon. The Cold War lines were now drawn with economic power as well as political rhetoric. Each side built its fortress, preparing for a long struggle. The world had become a chessboard, with every move shaping the future. The strategies of aid and containment would define the early Cold War. In Eastern Europe, survival meant enduring a system of absolute control. Communist parties loyal to Moscow held power. There were no free elections or press. Secret police like the Stasi created an atmosphere of fear. Neighbors spied on neighbors. Trust was rare. Daily life was a struggle of scarcity and control. People queued for hours for basic goods. Yet people found ways to endure through humor, black markets, and small moments of joy. Resistance was often subtle, listening to forbidden radio, telling political jokes, or practicing religion in secret. These acts preserved identity and humanity, a quiet declaration of internal freedom. Occasionally, resistance erupted into open rebellion. East Germany in 1953, Hungary in 1956, Czechoslovakia in 1968. Each time, Soviet tanks crushed dissent, but the desire for liberty persisted. These uprisings were not failures. They showed the world that the human spirit could not be extinguished. The courage of those who resisted inspired future generations. Survival was about more than endurance, it was about hope. Even under oppression, people found ways to assert their dignity. The resilience of Eastern Europeans became a beacon for others. Their quiet defiance shaped the course of history. Berlin became the Cold War's most powerful symbol. Deep inside East Germany, the city was divided. West Berlin an island of democracy. In 1948, the Soviets blockaded West Berlin, cutting off supplies to force the West out. The Western response, the Berlin airlift. For nearly a year, planes delivered food, fuel, and medicine. At its peak, a plane landed every few minutes, a lifeline for 2 million people. The airlift was a political and psychological victory, proving that determined resistance could triumph over brute force. West Berlin survived, and the city's spirit became legendary. Meanwhile, in Korea, the Cold War turned hot. In 1950, North Korea invaded the South, sparking a brutal proxy war. US and UN forces fought alongside South Koreans in harsh conditions. Survival depended on grit and the will to keep fighting. The Korean War showed that the Cold War's battles could be deadly and direct. Both Berlin and Korea became defining tests of endurance and resolve. The Cold War brought a terrifying new reality. The nuclear arms race. After the US used atomic bombs in 1945, the Soviets soon developed their own. Humanity now had the power to destroy itself. The world lived under the shadow of nuclear holocaust, mutually assured destruction, or MAD. Both sides built vast arsenals, each capable of annihilating the other. This balance of terror prevented direct war but created constant dread. Children practiced duck and cover drills. Families built fallout shelters. Survival became a matter of government planning and public anxiety. The arms race spurred relentless technological competition. Bombers, missiles, submarines. Every advance raised the stakes, making the world more dangerous. Survival was now a global concern, tied to decisions in Washington and Moscow. The psychological burden was immense, but people adapted. The Cold War turned survival into a high-stakes game for humanity's future. The threat of instant annihilation shaped an entire era. In October 1962, the world faced its most dangerous Cold War moment. US spy planes found Soviet nuclear missiles in Cuba, just 90 miles from Florida. President Kennedy ordered a naval blockade, and the world held its breath. Kennedy and Khrushchev negotiated, knowing the stakes were total destruction. A deal was struck, missiles out of Cuba, and the US pledged not to invade. The world breathed a sigh of relief, learning the value of negotiation. After the Cuban Missile Crisis, both superpowers recognized the need to reduce tensions, ushering in détente. A hotline was established between Washington and Moscow, and arms control treaties like SALT were negotiated. The arms race continued, but the world felt a little safer. By the 1980s, the Soviet system was failing, its economy stagnant, its people restless. Mikhail Gorbachev's reforms, glasnost and perestroika, unleashed forces he couldn't control. In 1989, peaceful revolution swept Eastern Europe. The Berlin Wall fell, and the Soviet Union did not intervene. The empire built on force collapsed under its own weight. The Cold War teaches profound lessons about survival and resilience. People maintain dignity and hope even in the darkest times. The era reminds us how close we came to catastrophe and the importance of diplomacy. The strength of those who resisted tyranny and the leaders who chose peace shaped a safer future. The Cold War's end was not just a political victory, but a triumph of the human spirit. The world learned that survival depends on courage, communication, and the will to build something better. The lessons of the Cold War endure, reminding us to value peace and resilience.